Hey guys, Ravedge here, and today's vid is going to be a quick update about the Windwalker changes to our gear, as in stats, gemming, and reforging. 5.3 has changed PvP altogether, and this did affect us overall, so I'm going to cover the changes that I've done to my gear, and I'll explain why. So, without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy the vid. Alright guys, now as stated at the beginning of the vid, this is going to be covering the stats. I'm going to talk about first the actual stat priority, then reforging, and then gemming. So I'm just going to go ahead and hop right into it. Now, as of 5.3, the new, I guess you could say, overall outlook of what you want to aim for as a Windwalker monk is starting at the most important and working its way down. Is having 3% hit cap. I need to work on my reforging. I'm still waiting on a couple of pieces to get it closer to just 3, because having over 3% isn't really helping you. You could be putting those stats into more beneficial stuff. So once I get, full tyrannical and I'm finishing out with all that, I'll be able, with my Chartiv or whatever, where you just make your tune and mess around with the reforging or whatnot, I got to 3.07 or something like that. So I'm going to be getting 3% hit chance. Expertise is the next most important thing. Some monks go for 6% and some go for 7%. So I'm happy at a healthy medium of 6.5. I've noticed a big increase in my damage because I'm not being dodged or parried anywhere near as much. Try and stick on the back of the target to reduce your chance of being dodged. And it's just that much easier for you. I've seen some with as high as 7.3% expertise, but it seems like a personal preference. So try and get in the 6 to 7% ratio on there, or range, not ratio. So those are your two main stats. But then talking about mastery, haste, and crit and all that, the next most important block is either you go mastery, crit, haste, or crit, mastery, haste. Haste being the most least important, almost considered a worthless stat, because it's barely giving you any damage increase or energy regen compared to the damage output you would be losing by not stacking mastery or crit. Crit right now is what I am tending to lean more towards, is going crit, mastery, haste, because I have reforged a lot of my gear out of the mastery that I currently had before into crit, and I've lost, as in mastery output, 0.3% damage, which I know with 10 stacks I can turn into a little bit more, but it's really not that it's not that big of a deal compared to the amount of crit I'm gaining. With self-buffed, by the time I will be full gear, I hope to have 35% or higher crit chance. And this doesn't only improve your damage. Number one, you have a higher chance to be critting your Rising Sun kicks, meaning you're just going to, demolish someone's health pool. But also your heals. Expel Harm, Chi Wave, all that. In Healing Spheres. I'm healing 86,000 with my Healing Spheres sometimes in arenas. So having the crit chance is really important. So I will be going crit, mastery, then haste. So that's covering the stat priority. The next one I said I was going to talk about is the reforging. So reforging now, as in all my gear, what I try and go for is having crit and mastery on, as two stats are always on a piece of gear. As with my weapons here, you see it's got crit, mastery. I don't even have to reforge it. I just leave those alone. Bracers, I reforged towards mastery out of hit because I was already over hit cap. My chest piece, I reforged to expertise from mastery because I want to try and get up to that 6.5%. So I still have actual crit and mastery on there, but I did take some of the mastery to go towards expertise because, once again, the most important stats are 3% hit, 6 to 7% expertise, then crit, then mastery, then haste for the route I'm going. You might be going 3% hit, 6 to 7% expertise, and then mastery, then crit, then haste. Then the next piece is my cloak, which I reforged haste towards mastery. Haste, if you see haste on a piece of gear, you're going to want to reforge out of it. So you'll either go to mastery or crit, whichever it doesn't have on the piece. Neck piece is, once again, I reforged out of the haste towards crit because it already had mastery on it. My shoulders, I reforged from haste towards crit because I'm going crit over mastery. And then my helm, I reforged from mastery towards crit. I always want to have crit on my gear. So Then I go over to the gloves, and I have 210 mastery gain, reforging out of hit. Then on my belt, I have another 198 crit reforged from hit because I was already over the hit cap. Then leggings, I gained 262 mastery reforging from the haste. And that's where, once again, as you see, I got 815 crit on my pants plus 262 mastery. I do still have some haste, but I did reforge out of that stat. Then on my boots, I've got haste that was reforged towards mastery, so I have crit, mastery, and a little bit of haste. Then on my rings, I reforged once again from haste to whatever stat I was missing. Since this ring already had crit, I reforged towards mastery. And once again, I reforged out of hit towards crit, so I have mastery, crit, and a little bit of hit on it. Now, I know it's probably a lot of big mouthful, but I'm trying to emphasize the key part is always having mastery and crit, and then switching out the stat that's needed to have that one. So if it has, say, crit and haste, I'm going to reforge haste towards mastery. So then I've got those two stats on it. So it's going to boost your damage the most in that actual sense. So that's what I was reforging, and it's going to actually change up once I get more tyrannical pieces because I'm going to be reforging to more. But at that point, I'll probably make a vid showing my final gear and what I shot for. So in a sense, if you guys were to get, if you have full tyrannical already or whatnot, compare, see what you might have differently. You might have something better that you could point out to me, which I would much appreciate it if you did in the comments. So that's talking about the reforging. And the last little thing I'm going to talk about is the actual gemming. Now, gemming, if you remember at the beginning of MOP, you either used to stack PvP power, just like raw PvP power. Every socket had a 320 PvP power gem, resilience, or a mixture or hybrid or whatnot. With the changes in 5.3, where PvP power was, you know, the like king stat that was put onto PvP gear because they got rid of resilience. There is no resilience on gear anymore. You just get a flat 65%. They also have cut down the gems, about what it would be with PvP power and resilience. Gems that had 320 resilience now only have 160. They've reduced these stats so you don't stack them as much. So now the gemming for a Windwalker Monk has changed drastically. Now originally I used to be stacked a lot of resil just to make myself that much more tankier, but now I am still sitting at 65.3% resilience. When I was fully gemmed resilience, I think I was like 67. So I only lost like, 1.7%. No big deal. I did, however, gain a lot of damage output. Now, what you would be gemming for is the main stats. You're like raw stats. Agility is king on a Windwalker Monk. There is no questioning about it. It gives you crit, attack power, all the good stuff. Here, I'll scroll over and whatnot. So, increases my attack power and increases my crit chance. You want crit chance and you want more damage. So, as in gems, I'll talk about the coloring and what gems I put in each slot. Now, when talking about gemming, guys, if you remember at the beginning of MOP, it has changed drastically. At the launch of MOP, most people were stacking PvP power, just raw PvP power, 320 PvP power gems in every slot, ignoring socket bonus and whatnot. Then that changed where it wasn't as good and people were stacking more resilience so they could become tankier, and that's how I was up until 5.3. Now with the change, there is no resilience on gear. As you see right now, there is no resilience. It just has PvP power. You get the flat 65% resilience just on your character automatically. Now, you do get a little bit more resilience from like gems and whatnot, but they have also cut down gems for how much they give you as resilience-wise. Originally, the yellow gem was 320 resilience. Now it's only 160. PvP power gems that would have been 320 are only 160, and etc. from there on out. So this has changed the actual stat priority for Windwalker Monks. So now what are they actually stacking? You're back to just original stats. I am stacking agility. Agility, agility, agility. Agility is king on a Windwalker Monk. It gives you crit and it gives you attack power, which improves your damage immensely. And especially crit, helps out with healing too. So right here off the bat, I'm just going to go over what color sockets and then what gems I have in there. Okay, the first one I'm going to talk about is the red sockets, and this one I have Perfect, Delicate, Pandera, and Garnet. Now, there is another gem also. It's Delicate. I'm not 100% sure what it is. It's No, come on. Yeah. Delicate Primordial Ruby is what it would be. And that's going to give you just a raw 160 agility. Now, these gems are the exact same stat, just one of them sometimes is a little bit cheaper, and these tend to be cheaper right now on my server, so I picked them up for, like, I think 20 gold cheaper than what I would have paid for the other one. Okay, back on track, though. So, 160 agility is what I put in the red socket. Yellow socket. Now, this was something I thought about because it was either going to be agility resilience or agility and crit. Now, realistically, you do not need the extra. Yeah, I think it would have been 80 resilience. So I went ahead with 160 crit because that's just boosting my crit chance. You know, that's the stat I'm going for. So in all my yellow sockets, I have the Deadly Vermilion Onyx, and that is giving me 80 agility and 160 crit. So I have that in my boots and my shoulders and my chest piece. Okay. So that's what I have in there. And then red sockets, I have, once again, 160 agility here. I have another 160 agility in my belt buckle slot. You know, that free, you can put any colored gem in there. So I just put the highest damage output gem in there. I have one also in my chest piece. And one in my helm. So that covers red, yellow. What about blue? Blue is another one that has some thought put into it. I was either going to use 80 agility, 80 PvP power, or 80 agility, and I think it was 120 stamina. Now, the reason I went with 80 agility and 80 PvP power, even though PvP power stacking isn't as good as it once was, me gaining 120 stamina is never going to be enough to really save my butt in arena. I know there will be that one time where I could use that extra little sliver of health, but overall, you're not just gaining damage from PvP power, you are gaining healing as well. As you see right here, because my PvP power is 15,549, I have an extra 38.87% damage and 27.21% healing. So I am gaining more damage, not only just from the agility part of the gem, but also the PvP power. And on top of that, I am gaining more healing also. So my Expel Harms, my Chi Waves, and my Healing Spheres. So that covers the red, yellow, and blue sockets. So once again, in every blue socket I have an Assassin's Imperial Amethyst, if that's how I say it properly. So I got that one in my legs, one in my belt, and one in my gloves. Now, last gem, which hasn't changed, but I figure I'd cover it again, is the Agile Primal Diamond. And that gives you 216 agility and 3% increased critical effect, meaning I get 3% increased critical damage on a Rising Sun Kick crit, etc. So, stuff like that, you know, just raw percent damage multipliers that go with PvP power as well. Not to mention, when I do crit, and with especially if Tiger Brew ups and all that, 3% goes up a lot more than what you would think. So that's the gem I run with. I've seen some people use in higher arenas, they use like stun reduction ones or silence, depending on if they're Mistweaver. That has all, you know, personal preference, but I like the extra damage output. So that was the gemming part, guys. If you do have any question, I know there was a lot of like random little parts, just comment below and I'll be sure to answer them as soon as possible. So that being said, I'm going to cut it off here and I'll see you in the end part of the vid. Alright guys, now it's going to wrap up this vid. Real quick, before I let you go, there's just a couple things I want to talk about real fast. The first thing is that I'm going to be doing a couple of vids this week, so be sure to check back on the channel regularly. The next thing I want to talk about is actually streaming. Streaming I'm going to be doing more throughout the upcoming weeks, and I'm trying to do more streaming events. I'll try and give you guys more of a heads up for the bigger events, but usually I'm just going to say, okay, I'm going to stream today, and I'll put up a vid on the YouTube channel, and I'll give a message on Facebook so you guys know ahead of time. I've been having good turnouts with it, and now with the guild, Monk Trainer Guild growing, we're almost at 140 members, we're going to be setting up more and more bigger stream events, so World PvP, whatnot, giveaways, so be sure to come on by and say hi. Also, people that are interested in joining Monk Trainer, you can whisper anyone in guild for an invite. There is no requirement, just be willing to have some fun, and that's pretty much it. So thank you for the people also in Monk Trainer who have been active, whether it's been guild achievements, guild progression, helping out G-Bank, and trying to set up things for the raid this coming weekend. So, that being said, that's going to be all the updates for here, guys. So, I'm going to say, this is Ravedge saying thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the BGs.